Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, double honest to the elders and apostles of Jim who will well. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Now, while I was watching a live stream with the elder apostle Gabar, and he was talking about allodial titles, and I think they did a little search, but they didn't really get into it. And he said, unless you own the allodial title, you don't really own the land. And I don't know whether I can look into what an allodial title looks like. A common law pure trust, the ultimate asset protection vehicle, real estate, land, fine art, jewelry, rare. And I remember one time I went to what was called a Princess Trust in the UK, and I was looking into setting up a business, and I asked about a common law business trust. I can't remember the technical name for it. It was so long ago. Obviously, that's bullcrap. And there was a lawyer who was talking about law and registering your business, so on and so forth. When I asked that question, she completely ignored me. She didn't even say that's wrong, rare, rare, rare. She just completely ignored me. So a lot of these lawyers know we're getting finessed. And if you look into a allodial title, it says allodial title describes a situation where real property, land, buildings, and fixtures is owned free and clear of any encumbrances, including liens, mortgages, and tax obligations. So you just buy the property outright, it's yours. And let's look into what liens are. A lien definition. A lien refers to a legal claim against a property that can be used as collateral to repay a debt. So if somebody comes along and says you owe them so and so such, and they lay claim to part of that property until it's repaid. Depending on the type of debt owed, liens can be attached to real property, such as a home, or personal property, such as car or furniture. So if you owe money to the bailiffs or whatever, they can put a lien on your car and say they're gonna take your car. You owe 5 grand, your car's worth 10 grand. They're gonna sell your car, take the 5 grand that you owe them and any money that it costs them to sell your car, and then give you the rest. That's what a lien is. So a loaded title describes a situation where real property, land, buildings, and fixtures is owned free and clear of any encumbrances, including liens, mortgages, and tax obligations. So if you own a land and you have the allodial title, you don't have to pay no property tax on it because it truly belongs to you. Now, if you look into this society, you see the Queen owns everything. Now, if you have your own land, you don't need a driver license. If you own private land, you don't need a driver license to drive on your own land. Under our legal system, the monarch, currently King Charles III, as head of state, owns the superior interest in all land in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. In most cases, this is usually relevant, but it can become irrelevant if a freehold property becomes ownerless. So, what happens if you own a quote unquote freehold property? Because now you don't have allodial titles, you have freehold properties, which means you have a property that you can pass on to your children, and there's not short, because a short hold property is you have a lease for 99 years and you can pay to extend that. The property that my grandma had, it was a 99-year lease, and you could extend it. You pay 13 grand and you can extend it for another 99 years. So you actually don't own the land. It's a short hold property. When you own a freehold property, you don't have to pay to continue owning that land. But even then, you don't have the allodial title. You don't have superior interest in all the land. The king does. So the king owns your land. You are really what's it called? When you have a trust, you have a beneficiary. Let's look into trust. Trust. Let's see. When you have a trust, generally speaking, beneficiaries have a right to see trust documents which set out the terms of the trust. Can a trustee? Yes, a trustee can refuse to pay a beneficiary. Uh, let's see. What rights do beneficiaries have? The right of a beneficiary vary depending on the type of interest they have. Having said that, all beneficiaries are entitled to. Because I know the trustees who you're giving it to. Like if you have a house in trust and you're giving it to your son, I believe he's a trustee. Let's see. The rights of a beneficiary vary independent on the type of interest they have in the trust. Having said that, all beneficiaries are entitled to certain information, such as a copy of the trust deed. I think the beneficiaries who is receiving it, if a beneficiary or group that of beneficiaries are absolutely entitled, they may be able to compel the trustees to take actions such as retiring or making payments. Let's see. I don't want to make false information. Trustees in a trust. The trustee are the legal owners of the asset held in a trust. Their role is to deal with the assets according to the settler's wishes, as set out in the trust deed or their will, manage the trust on a day-to-day basis, and pay any tax due. So that's who the trustees are, and I believe they hold it, for the beneficiaries, who the trustees in the trust fund. A trustee is a legal owner of assets in a trust fund, which they hold for the benefit of one or more individuals called beneficiaries. Trustees have a legal obligation to deal with the trust assets in accordance with the trust instrument. In simple terms, anyone who has the capacity to hold property can be a trustee. So really and truly, the land is held in trust. We are the trustees, so and so forth. But the trustee is really the king. He is the legal owner of all the assets in the trust, and it's for your benefit. But they, it says it has a legal obligation to deal with the trust in accordance with the trust instructions. In simple terms, anyone who has the capacity to hold property can be a trustee. We're not trustees in a property. We're really beneficiaries. We're not. You don't own the allodial title. The king does. Can you get an allodial title in the US? Does allodial title exist in the US? No, in the US, the land is subject to eminent domain by federal, state, and local governments. It is also subject to the imposition of taxes by state and or local governments. As a result, there is no land under true allodial title, because who owns the allodial title in the US? The federal government. Who owns the allodial title in the UK? The monarch. So you don't own anything. Hence why you have to pay taxes. And not to patronize the elders' point. I know I went a bit, but that's really where it is. And this goes back to Baruch 3:8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our power. Hear, Israel, the commandments of life, give ear to understand wisdom. How happeneth it, Israel, that thou art in thine enemy's land, that thou art waxing old in a strange country, that thou art defiled with the dead? Because all these so-called religions, they're sepulchres, they're dead. Thou art counted with them that go down to the grave. We're really dead, and that's why the scriptures talk about Israel being risen up, the dead bones being risen up. And just another point I wanted to make, I googled why are ships called she, and it says here under Google search, quote unquote, another tradition is to consider ships as female, referring to them as she, although it may sound strange referring to an animate object as she. This tradition relates to the idea of a female figure, such as a mother or goddess, guiding and protecting a ship and crew. See, Esau takes it and they paganize everything that's really based in biblical law, you know, because the reason why property is really referred to as she is because women are regarded as property, and we can get that in the scriptures. But I used to like to talk about the mother goddess, the mother goddess, all this female worship that Jake loved to just talk about. I was talking to a Jake today. Cool brother. But as far as I'm concerned, you're not really cool. You don't know what you're talking about unless everything that you have comes from the scriptures. And his whole thing was before I get into this, his whole thing was, I was like, do you feel like you're treated fair in this country or whatever? He's like, well, I treated fair. Same thing that other brother said. I get treated better here than anywhere else I would be. And I was like, all right, cool. If you have, say you have 10 wives, this is the example I use. Say you have 10 wives or 10 women, and they all treat you bad. They all disrespect you. They're all disrespect. They're all uh uncouth, or like whatever you want to say. They're all just basically they're all demons. But one of them is the least demon out of all of them hit you, emotionally abuse you, physically abuse you, mentally abuse you, spiritually abuse you. But one of them, she does all of that, but she doesn't physically abuse you. She just verbally abuses you and denigrates you, and spiritually abuses you by having idols in the house. Because she treats you the best, technically, because she's doing the least amount of damage to you, does that make her a good woman? Is that a good situation to be in? And it's like Jake want to dance around the subject. The answer is no. Just because somebody treats you better than everybody else doesn't mean that they treat you good. You can be a situation where everybody is disrespectful towards you, but one person is the least disrespectful out of all of them. You know, they all kick and punch you, and they all insult you. This one person, they insult you, but they don't kick and punch you. So you look at them like they're your friend. And this is how Drake views Esau and living in Esau society. You get treated like crap everywhere, but Esau treats you the best out of everybody. So you think you have a good thing. You don't have a good thing. You don't even know what good is because you never had it. You never had a good woman. So you don't know what a good woman is. You've never been in a situation where you truly had something to know what to have something is. You've never had your own property where you're not subject to taxes, where you don't have to pay taxes on it because you truly own it, because it's truly yours, and you're not a beneficiary, and the government or the federal government or the monarch is a trustee of the land, and you basically have to pay taxes on it, you know, because they're the trustee and they're the ones that you know is basically they're paying tax to themselves, you know. Jake doesn't understand this. And going back to my point, because Jake is in a family, Jake has really become paganized in his mind. He doesn't understand what what and who he is in this society, and how he's supposed to treat things, and how he's supposed to be head a household, and how he's supposed to be manlike. Jake has become very womanlike because they're incapable of being reasoned with. Sorry, excuse me. Nature calls. Ecclesiasticus 36:24. He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a helplight unto himself, and a pillar of rest. Where no hedges, there the possession is spoilt. And he that have no wife will wander up and down mourning. Who will trust a thief well appointed that skippeth from city to city? Who will believe a man that have no house and lodgeth wheresoever the night taketh him? So, you know, when you have a wife, when you have a possession, you know, you have a good thing. Just like if you have a car, you know, you can travel to and fro. You can go from city to city. If you have a house, you know, you have a house to cover shame, and uh well, it's close to cover shame. Let's get that scripture. I don't want to butcher it. Because this all really goes into ownership, which Jake doesn't have. Jake don't own anything. Ecclesiasticus 29:21. The chief thing for life is water and bread and clothing and a house to cover shame. Better is the life of a poor man in a mean cottage than delicate fare in another man's house. Be it little or much, hold thee contented that thou hear not the reproach of thy house, for it is a miserable life to go from house to house. For where thou art a stranger, thou darest not open thy mouth. And Jake is a stranger here. That's why Jake don't really want to open his mouth. You know it's unfair, but you don't really want to open your mouth because you know if you do, you're gonna get yourself into trouble. So Jake don't even want to, you know, deal with things that's in his face that are blatant, because you start to, oh well, I should be grateful. I should be grateful that I'm treated the best here, because you feel like you're homeless without these people, and if you didn't have them for a cover, you'd be outside naked and shivering, you know, in Africa or Yard or Jamaica or wherever the hell you quote unquote come from. He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest. So why are ships called she? It's got nothing to do with a female figurehead. It's got to do with a woman is a possession. If you have a car, if you have a house, if you have a ship, whatever you have, the reason why it is regarded as a feminine thing is because it is a possession. It belongs to you. That's why it's referred to as she, not because of all this pagan stuff that Esau has come along with and turned everything into. He's turned everything pagan. You know, he's turned Christianity pagan. Because when you read the scriptures, it don't talk about no Christmas, no Halloween, no New Year's, no none of that. It talks about the Feast of Tabernacles, the Sabbath, the Day of Atonement, and all the other holy days, you know, that are supposed to be a Sabbath onto Israel. But this man has taken and he creates Christmas, Halloween, Easter, bank holidays, and all this other pagan stuff, and we just buy into it and we think this is right, you know. I suggest brothers look into this stuff themselves. You know, it was just a quick little thing I just whipped up. All praises to the Most High Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, double honors to the elders and apostles of James who rule well. Shalom to the hopeful elect.